Hello, my treasures. It's time for the Titans reveal season to start. And with it, we are going to be going over the Titans for each individual class that weren't in the initial bunch. So let's begin. The first one revealed is Aggramar the Avenger, a 6-cost 3 attack 7 HP minion for Hunter that has the Titan keyword and the battle cry equipped a 3/3 Teshalak. And Teshalak is just a 3 attack, 3 durability weapon. However, his Titan abilities will make this a lot better. The first one is going to be Commanding Presence. That gives your weapon after your hero attacks, summon a 3/3 Enforcer with Taunt. Maintaining Order gives your weapon after your hero attacks, draw a card. And finally, Swift Slash. That gives your weapon a +2 attack and immune while your hero is attacking. Now, my first concern with a card like this is the fact that there isn't really a Hunter deck that forms around weapons currently. However, we did see Shock Spitter within March of the Lich King, which was a card at the time very out of place for the Hunter deck. I'd almost want to assume Blizzard will unnerf the card because we don't have Bran in standard rotation again, but it may become a problem for Wild if they do such a thing. But if they don't, I still think this card will probably see a lot of play, as it is just a really good card for a face hunter style of deck. I was actually thinking about doing a weapon hunter deck very recently. However, seeing this card, I'm going to wait until the set actually comes out to do such a deck, just because I think it has such a high potential to be quite playable. Now for the next card, which is going to be Aman'thul, the leader of the Titans and a Priest Titan. He is going to be a 7-cost 3 attack 10 HP Titan minion that after this uses an ability, discover any legendary minion. So this is going to be any legendary minion that is currently in rotation for whatever format you're actually playing. And then his 3 abilities are going to be Shape the Stars, that allows you to choose a non-Titan minion, summon a copy of it with +2/+2. Vision of Heroes, that summons a random 6-cost minion, give it Taunt and Lifesteal. And then finally we have Strike from History. Choose 2 enemy minions, remove them from the game. I get what they're going for here. I'm trying to think of what non-Titan minion that you're going to want to use this in combination with. The main problem I see is Priest right now currently in standard doesn't have too many mana discounts on things that are already spells, which means a card like this is going to be incredibly difficult to actually use. And because Priest does have a few ways to copy this card, it could see play as a removal tool, but I don't think this is going to replace Blackwater Behemoth in a control Priest deck. However, if you do find enough ways to copy this, then you may or may not have a new style of Priest deck that floats around with getting multiple copies. All right, let's move on to the Demon Hunter Titan, Argus, who is going to be a 7-drop 5/9. That is a Titan minion that has the ability, minions to the left of this have Rush, and minions to the right have a Lifesteal. And then the 3 abilities he's going to have is Organite Army, that's going to summon 4 2/2 elementals with Taunt, and you can see the elemental here. Show Force, which is going to reduce the cost of all minions in your hand by 2. And finally, Crystal Carving, that discovers a Death Rattle minion and it costs 3 less. So I've been seeing a lot of people comparing this to the Tavern Brawl that has a very similar effect, and it is actually getting made into a fully functional card. Currently in Standard Hearthstone, we don't really have too many Death Rattle minions for Demon Hunter, so I think we have discovered unintended, as it will probably be a Death Rattle theme for the Demon Hunter class. The interesting thing about it being a Death Rattle theme for the Demon Hunter class is the fact that Argus is a Death Titan, so Death Rattle goes very thematic with the Death Rattle effects. Overall, I am actually kind of shocked that this doesn't have any interaction between demons. However, you could still run this easily in a big demon hunter deck, where you're going to try to get a discount on a bunch of demons within your hand, and this is going to be just a perfectly good card for such a deck. My one worry about this card in particular is Lady Cynthia in combination with this and Helvetia, as this will allow you to easily scale up Lady Cynthia without having to run cards that are normally kind of dead in a deck, such as Crazed Alchemist or any of the other attacking minions that people were running before. And now you can just slam this down, discount everything in your hand by 2, and then slam it down on the following turn. Sure, you're going to have to protect Argus in some way, but I still think this is going to be incredibly powerful. Now for the next Titan, which is going to be Golganneth the Thunderer, a 6 cost, 5 attack, 7 HP Titan for Shaman that your first spell each turn costs 3 less. His 3 abilities are going to be Roaring Oceans, that deals 3 damage to all enemies and restores 6 to all friendly characters. Draw 3 overloaded cards, and finally, Lord of the Skies, which is going to deal 20 damage to a minion. Holy shit. Is there just some type of huge minion that we don't know about yet that 20 damage is absolutely necessary? Because this seems like a little bit of an overkill card, at least in that ability. This also does increase the consistency factor of Overload Shaman, which is actually kind of cool. However, it does have the downside that it doesn't have Overload itself for that deck. But because that deck does have a lot of mana cheat, and you could, in theory, use this in combination with Criminal Lineup to get additional copies, I think this card is perfectly fine for a lot of different style of Shaman decks. And it is cool to see the weapon that he used in the RPG manual be canonized, at least in Hearthstone, through Sargeras' Wrath. Alright, now for the next Titan, which is going to be Sargeras the Destroyer, who is a 9 cost, 6 attack, 12 HP Titan. With the battle cry, open a portal that summons 2/3/2 imps each turn. And then his 3 abilities are going to be the Twisting Nether, which is what summons the imps. We have Legion Invasion, that makes all future demons summoned from the Twisting Nether have +2 health, and Taunt to the Void, that is a very similar effect to the 7 cost Bronze Dragon Legendary for Paladin, where it just doesn't trigger any death rattles. And finally, we have Inferno, which is probably a reference to Lord Jaraxxus, where you're going to summon 2 6/6 Infernos from the Twisting Nether. First off, it's interesting that they're making Sargeras into a demon, because typically speaking, he isn't technically a demon, though I do understand why they did make him one, just because of the fact that he is the leader of the demons in the Warcraft universe, so they just wanted to add a little bit more consistency there. Though I do think this does make it a little bit anti-synergistic with some of the big demon support that we do currently have in standard rotation. For example, Void Color is actually a really, really bad card to use this in combination with, because you won't get access to the portal, which means all 3 of his abilities are completely useless. Generally speaking, him costing 9 mana is probably going to be one of his downfalls. However, if you do run this in something like a Thaddeus Warlock deck, this is actually a pretty decent payoff for that deck, as it has an infinite resource, and we know from past history, any deck that has an infinite resource generating card is almost unstoppable and probably will end up seeing some type of nerf. Sure, this does rely on you to be able to slam him down quick enough, but because it does generate you a bunch of taunts and a bunch of advantage, you should be able to win out the game. And I know from the community vote that is going on right now, everyone is voting for Sargeras, as he is the most iconic Titan. All right, let's get on to the next Titan, who actually isn't a Titan, the Primus, who is a 8 cost, 7 attack, 9 HP Titan. After this uses an ability, discover a card with that rune, and then his 3 abilities are going to be Runes of Frost. That makes your next spell you cast cost 3 less and has +3 spell damage. We have Rune of the Unholy that summons 2/3/3 undead with Taunt and Reborn. And finally, we have Runes of Blood, which destroys an enemy minion, and this minion and your hero gain its health. Hey, we have Vampiric Blood for all DK decks, because that won't be a problem anytime soon, am I right? Because this card has no rune requirements, this will probably fit in every single DK deck until it rotates out. It's such a huge and powerful card that has a lot of advantage for any style of DK deck. Sure, Runes of the Unholy is probably the worst out of the entire bunch, but if you can get a really big minion removed from your opponent's board, you can increase your survivability by quite a bit, or just be able to finish off your opponent with a really cheap direct damaging spell through Runes of the Frost. The deck I can't wait to try this out in is the Weapon DK list that I just posted yesterday, as this should increase the survivability of that deck through both Runes of the Unholy and Runes of Blood. Now let's get on to the next card, which is Voltron Prime, a 6 cost, 3 attack, 5 HP mech Titan, spelled with a 1 and a 4. This minion's abilities repeat on another random friendly minion. Their 3 abilities are going to be Full Power, which gains +1/+2, and then you draw a card. Attach the Cannons, which gains +2/+1, and then deal 4 damage to a random enemy. And finally, we have Maximize Defenses, gain +3 health, and cannot be targeted by hero power or spells. Out of all the Titans, I think besides the Warrior one, which we'll be going over soon, this is probably the weakest one out of the entire bunch. It does kind of make sense because this is a artificial Titan and isn't technically actually a Titan from a lore perspective. I am kind of curious if this card will be a lot more playable than it looks like right now, because we did see a really powerful magnetic mech for Rogue as one of the announced cards that was revealed that gives stealth at least for 1 turn, and that card plus this card could in theory be very, very powerful, though that is a 9 mana combo, which isn't going to always be the easiest thing. The other thing worth mentioning, because Rogue does have a lot of things like Shadow Step and Breakdance, you can in theory just keep bouncing this minion back to get additional advantage off of the draw power or dealing 4 random damage to an enemy minion, though I do think this is going to be struggling against Krakatoa as a 6-cost card in a lot of Rogue decks. So let's get on to the next one, which is going to be the Warrior Titan Khaz'goroth, who is a 6-cost 4 attack 4 HP Titan that after this uses an ability, gain immune this turn and attack a random enemy minion. And then his 3 abilities are going to be Heart of Flame, which gains +5 health and gives your hero 5 armor. We have Titan Forge that gains +2/+2, and then you draw a weapon. And finally, we have Tampering that gains 5 attack and then gives your hero +5 attack this turn. Now, when I said the last Titan was probably the worst one, this is probably even worse than that. It is kind of sad to say, compared to a lot of the other control-based Titans that we have seen for the set, this is definitely the weakest. Now, there are a few things worth mentioning. You will be able to double his stats by using things like Black Rock and Roll and Lothamar, which makes him actually incredibly good that way. However, because he can only hit your opponent's minions and not your opponent's face, it does make him a lot weaker. Though this is probably to make sure your opponent can't just OTK you by slamming this down and choosing an ability once you do buff him up quite a bit through all of the possibilities that you can do. Alright, let's get on to Hearthstone's original Titan, Amitus the Peacekeeper. 1 attack, 8 HP Titan. Taunt, your minions cannot take more than 2 damage at a time. And then you have Reinforced, which draws 2 minions, set their attack, health, and cost to 2. Pacified, that sets the attack and health of all enemy minions to 2. And then we finally have Empowered, which buffs up all your other minions by +2/+2. Oh man, Tony Pally, that is a deck that I really want to try out day 1 because of this card. If you run Amitus with both Tony and the Jailer as your 3 minions, and maybe Audio Amplifier as the 4th minion in order to get up to 11 mana, you should be able to just burn your opponent's entire deck while also being able to control the board and not worrying about resetting your minions to a lower HP pool. Now, do I think that's probably the best way to abuse this card? No. Aggro is probably going to be the best way to abuse this card, as it will allow you to protect your minions from some type of AoE board clear that does direct damaging, instead of just destroying your entire board. Generally, I would say this is probably one of the more balanced Titans out of the bunch. It's not too strong, and it's not too weak, and it's going to be a lot of fun with the different style of decks that you can actually try out with it. Now, those were all the Titans that were remaining from the Titans set. Let me know which ones you're most looking forward to using first. Honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Aggramar and Amitus are the 2 that I'm most looking forward to using. I love a weapon style of decks. Those are some of my favorite types to make use of, and Amitus is just going to be a very wacky combo enabler if I can make the Jailer combo work. Now, like always, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, bye-bye.